Ladies and gentlemen, there's no better way to get up than to get up with Garret. Garret is a third-generation success-credentialed real estate entrepreneur who's here to give you tips, tricks, and share stories of success. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, Garret Bedrin.
Well, Dougie, great to see you.
You too.
Pre-holidays. Happy and healthy holidays, and Happy New Year to you and your friends and your family and our audience out there.
You as well.
I've been spinning the dreidel for 4 nights already. We're halfway through Hanukkah.
Nice.
But for those who are celebrating Hanukkah, I want to wish you a happy and joyous Hanukkah. And those who are going to celebrate Christmas and other things, I wish you all those wonderful days ahead and the New Year's. And it's going to be cold and rainy and all that disgusting stuff, right? But it's an exciting time of year, and we're hopeful people are out shopping, spending money at the shopping centers, right? That helps our local businesses and our friends and our businesses, and it's just a great time to be together. Doug, we've talked a lot over the past few months about the big family property that we've been building, the Hedges at Hawthorne here, which is our luxury mixed-use project, 118 condo quality apartments here in Hawthorne, something that's never been built in the area. Also a big CubeSmart self-storage. And finally opened, drum roll, the Planet Fitness.
Wow.
And to build something from the ground up like this, literally from dirt, right, to a business and watch it open is just tremendous. I think you probably have some photos.
Ready to rock. There we go.
Sent you earlier of the new gym. So they've got the 30-minute workout area. They've got this huge mezzanine for upstairs weights, big cardio areas, beautiful locker rooms, country club showers. I mean, this is really much nicer than I thought it would be. There you go. Everything's all clean, open, high ceilings, great light. It's all the purple and black. And we're really thrilled for them. I've been in some of the Hawthorne Facebook community groups telling everyone, hey, we're open, come on in. And so far, everyone's been so excited. They can't believe how clean it is, how nice it is. And it's just really fun to be part of launching something from the ground up. So, hopefully you're thinking about health and wellness. If you live in the area, it's $10 a month to join Planet Fitness. And then there is also something called the Black Card Spa.
Wow.
I don't know if you're familiar with this, but basically, I think it's an extra $15 a month, and it allows you access to their tanning rooms, their hydro massage, and then their massage chairs. I'm very into stretching, massage, all that kind of health and wellness stuff, trying to stay flexible, comfortable as I age. Gosh, I wake up, I feel like I'm 110. And then I get warm, I get going, and I feel 28. But of course, I'm in my young 40s. But it'll also allow you to go to any other Planet Fitness. So I think that's $24.95. But if you just want the basic Planet Fitness, you can come once a week, once a day, $10. I mean, how do you beat that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Literally, if you go once a month, you're like, all right, $10. And they have everything. So we're thrilled about that. And wanted to give a shout out to my family, my wife. We had some time together, went ice skating in Bryant Park. My wife made some amazing latkes from home. I don't know if you're familiar with a latke.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's kind of like it's a potato pancake. There you go. You throw those together, you fry them. It makes an absolute mess in the kitchen. Yeah. There's oil everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Everywhere. But you throw some applesauce in there. My parents came over. The girls got some gifts for Hanukkah, and it was just a great way to get started. So I definitely recommend, if you have a chance, whether you're Jewish or not, enjoy this latke, the season opportunity to try something new, a different culture, because it's delicious. And I think don't eat too many though, Doug.
I love me some latkes.
And not too much salt.
I love me some latkes.
Not too much salt. So, you know what? I want to bring our guest in early here today. We actually have a great show. We're going to welcome to the show a friend of mine who went to high school at the same place I went to school. He's a couple years younger than me, but he's had a very interesting career path in sports media, social media, sports business, which for those that don't know, that's my background in terms of going to UMass, studying sport management, working for professional teams. So I thought his career path was really interesting because it was similar to mine. I know we have a lot of friends in the audience that enjoy the sports and kind of the meshing of business and sports. But really what I thought stood out about Dan's kind of career path is that he's always had a very entrepreneurial role everywhere he's been. And he's also done a lot of different internships that have helped him get to where he is today. He currently is at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. So let's bring in Dan Marrazza to the show and see if he's ready to go. Dan,
ready to go. Thanks for having me.
Oh my God. I hope you enjoyed the green room and the wonderful caviar and special treats, courtesy of the Get Up With Garret budget.
I'm completely full. I'm not even going to eat over the holidays now.
You're not even going to eat over the holidays. Good. Well, thanks for spending some time with us this morning. I know everyone's excited and busy. And I know from an NFL perspective, of course, the Hall of Fame is more than just the NFL. But I feel like this has been an incredible year football-wise, if we can start with that. Who are you excited to watch over the next couple of weeks? What are your thoughts about the season?
Oh, it's honestly, it's as soon as you think you have an answer, another game kind of pops up and kind of gets that one. I know even though I live in Ohio now, I am originally a New York area guy, as both you and I went to school in New Jersey. So I'm really interested to see how the Jets rebound from, some of the losses they've had in the last couple of weeks. I'm still a believer that I like seeing the New York teams in the playoffs. I think it's good for the league and good for the sport to see that. So I'm interested to see that. But I know, that being said, with so many games on Saturday and Sunday this week, there's probably going to be another game that's just going to take over and kind of steal the thunder away from the New York teams.
It's been a great week, and I feel like even if you're not a New York fan, or maybe your team has won or lost, you still are interested in watching the other games. I mean, seeing the ending to the Patriots-Raider game, and I know, of course, you lived and worked in Vegas for a number of years, and we're going to get to that. That was just mind-blowing, especially right around the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception game. And, of course, and then a day or two later, you hear Franco Harris passes away 2 days before the 50th year celebration. I think NFL Network was gearing up to do a whole celebration of the 50 years. I mean, I was blown away by that news.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly sad. He's, in addition to being a great football player, he was a friend of those at the Hall of Fame. And, and not only was it the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception, but with his jersey being retired on Saturday by the Pittsburgh Steelers too, the timing is, like I said, it's really unfortunate. It's really sad. The thing that's been not good to see, but the thing that's been very heartwarming to see is to see just how many Hall of Famers, even in social media, have been sharing photos with him, at like dozens. I mean, and then even beyond football players and Hall of Famers, Reggie Jackson shared a photo with him. It just kind of shows how many lives he touched beyond how he played on the field, and just seeing that outpouring and seeing that love has definitely been heartwarming.
Absolutely. And, we also lost John Madden this year, which now the league has started the John Madden games on Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. Everyone loves their turkey, their turducken. I mean, I think John Madden, of course, the video games from the early 90s, I'm sure you enjoyed those with your friends on MK breaks. And then also him on the bus. And, of course, you got to think about Brett Favre and turducken and the whole ceremony of, maybe Leon Lett getting that big turkey after one of those crazy Cowboy games. It's just been such an interesting year. And, of course, sadness and loss, but also the game keeps getting bigger, keeps growing. And the quality of the content is mind-blowing. And the parity, I mean, I feel like in the AFC, there's got to be, you got the Chiefs could win, the Bills can win, the Dolphins could win, the Bengals could win, right? Yeah. You never know. Justin Herbert, the Chargers could pull something off. And, and then, of course, the NFC, you feel like the Eagles kind of are really ahead of everyone else. But I just think there's going to be a number of good years ahead. There's a lot of great young quarterback talent, especially in the AFC. So I'm excited to see what happens. So
it's been one of the most exciting. It's been one of the most exciting years I can remember for a while. Maybe because we're spoiled because the Jets and Giants are doing so well, but it's been exciting. Like everyone's kind of still in it.
But I've enjoyed the games. Like I think there was a Buffalo-Miami game, and it's like the drama, the game. I mean, the Giant Commander game there night just had a lot of drama. Yeah. It's a lot of theater, and it keeps growing by leaps and bounds. So, Dan, let's step back because MKA, obviously you were there. I think you mentioned you graduated is 2005?
2005.
Okay, got it. And then, you went off to Ithaca and you started your career thinking sports media. Is that something that when you were growing up, you had an interest in? How did that kind of first come about to you?
It's kind of funny. And when I think back of growing up, even back to the MKA days, I was always the kid who loved sports and maybe wasn't as good at playing them, but I was always very knowledgeable of them, and I was always a storyteller. And I would always have the strangest pieces of trivia, and I would always have the occasional classmate that would say, "You're not going to need that when you grow up." And I've actually been able to make a career out of it. So that's actually something that's been kind of fun to see. For me, I think it's something that I started interning when I was still in MKA, when I was, I was probably 16 years old at that point, where for me, I was always a decent student, but just the subjects didn't interest me. But sports had interested me so much, and it got me reading more and writing more. And it just really brought out that, maybe some of that ability that was sleeping for a long time, just because it gave me a subject, and it kind of gave me a goal. And I always say it was like kind of putting a fish into water. So yeah, I started interning when I was in high school. I think at the time, social media wasn't really around at that point. It was more with the goal of maybe being a sports writer someday. And I still, I've written for quite a few outlets. I've written for Sports Illustrated, ESPN, the New York Times. But that being said, just the way the industry has evolved, and as I've dipped my toes into a lot of things and things have evolved, I kind of find myself a little bit more heavily on the social media side now as things have gone. But it's kind of fun to think about how I'm not that old, but still, that being said, in just a relatively short period of time, just the industry itself is completely flipped upside down.
You're definitely not that old, because I'm not that old. And I know that I'm a couple of years older than you. And, it's such an interesting path. Doug, I don't know if I ever told you this story, but, I wasn't much of an athlete either. I've been the same size since 8th grade. And I had my kind of Al Bundy moment. Eighth grade football, you couldn't tackle me. We won I don't know what it was, Dan, the state B championship of whatever, 8th grade, against Rumson and Pingree and all these schools, right? Mm-hmm. And Princeton Day, all these prep schools. And, I had touchdowns. I ran back a kickoff. I made game-saving tackles. Again, I was like 5'9", like 180 pounds. I peaked early. And then when I got to high school, I had this like rare blood disorder that is not, I don't want to scare anybody, but they said, you really shouldn't play contact sports. I said, okay, fine, no problem. Not that I was any good at it anyway, right? So I decided to kind of manage the team and become like the ball boy. And I would travel with the basketball team and fold the warm-ups. And it was part of being, part of the community, right? And my dad's, the family business was a corporate sponsor of the Nets. Mm-hmm. And so I got to kind of see how that worked. And then I ended up becoming a ball boy with the Nets and learning the business side and going to UMass and studying sport management. So I kind of crafted my own view of it without being able to necessarily play. There's always another angle you could figure out. And it sounds like for Dan, that was a little similar from the writing side and from the digital media side. He realized quickly, look, I'm not necessarily going to be the athlete that gets the big scholarship or makes the big money doing that, but I could still have a love by studying and reading and making a career out of it. And of course, learning. And later in the show, we're going to talk to Dan a little bit more about some of the things that he's memorized and made a career and maybe even stump him a little bit and see if we can get him. Is that okay, Dan?
That sounds perfect. But just because, I want to stay topical to that, and I kind of want to live up to the billing, you mentioned Al Bundy, and you might not know that Al Bundy has a connection to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That in real life, Ed O'Neill was actually signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers by Hall of Fame coach Chuck Noll. He never made the team. Unfortunately, he was a rookie the same year at the same position as Mean Joe Green. Bad timing. And he didn't make the Steelers. And apparently the story goes that Chuck Noll liked him, though, and wanted to, offer to trade him to another team where he could maybe have an opportunity. But Ed O'Neill was like, "No, I've had enough. I'm going to go try acting." So that ended up working out okay for everybody involved. And there's no shame to be beaten out for a position by Mean Joe Green. And
absolutely not.
Wanted to live up to my background here, physically right behind me at the Football Hall of Fame. And just as you mentioned Al Bundy, I love a good TV reference whenever I can get it.
Absolutely. And we should mention Dan is coming to us courtesy from the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. So we appreciate them giving him the opportunity to do this. When you're in Ohio, you should definitely visit, right? I mean, how far away is it from Cleveland? Would you fly into Cleveland? About an hour? Yeah, about an hour. And maybe later in the show, Doug will put up the website, or is there an Instagram for the Football Hall of Fame, Dan?
There is. It's Pro Football HOF.
Pro Football HOF. So check that out. I'm sure there's some incredible content there. And if you're in town, ask for Dan and say hello. And we appreciate everyone stopping by. And and visiting, right, and coming in for a tour. Just mention the VIP Get Up with Garret tour, okay? No problem. And Dan, you seem to be the kind of guy who's full of wonderful, interesting knowledge, right? Whether it's movie quotes or it's special hockey or baseball stats. And so we're gonna get back to that. I want to jump into a little bit of your career path, because I think what jumped out at me as I got to know you a little bit was you really took a very entrepreneurial approach in everything you've done so far in your young career, as if your face was on it, as if it was taking ownership. And although you're working for companies and you're not necessarily the owner per se, or the face of the company, your attitude and your approach has always been very entrepreneurial. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I think that would help the audience. So really the big first one, after doing some of the internships, and I'm always a big fan of networking, especially at MKA, I thought they did a great job of pushing us to get to know our teachers, get to know the alumni. They had career days, because I think the earlier you start networking, right? I always say your network is your net worth, and there's great people that you went to school, whether it was high school, college, like we're doing right now, getting to know each other. So the fact that you did some of those internships, I think, is super special. It really puts you in a different category when you're applying for a job. Your resume goes on a kind of a different part of the desk, in my opinion, in the sports industry. But let's talk about the first big position. This was when you moved out to Vegas and were able to really launch the Golden Knights social media strategy.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, as I was the 5th employee in the history of the Vegas Golden Knights. It was so early in the game, they weren't even the Golden Knights yet. It was just like Vegas Hockey LLC or whatever it was at that point. And not only that, the NHL had not even officially given them the franchise yet. So it was well over a year before we even played a game after I had gotten there. And no, not many people could say that when you land in the desert and it's in June when you land there, it's about 115 degrees outside, and it's let's do that. Let's do some hockey here. But no, it's been really amazing just to see, how that franchise has continued to succeed, and just the excitement that it's been able to breed, not only in the city, but just around the league, just based on how the team, including when I was there, we just kind of went at things with a little bit different of an approach. I think one of the big things, and I guess this is one of the things I take with me wherever I go, is that sports isn't just sports, it's entertainment. And especially in a city like Las Vegas, which is the entertainment capital of the world, and you really need to dive into that. Granted, we did not know that in our first season we were almost going to win the Stanley Cup, and that certainly helps when it comes to popularity. But that being said, as we geared it, let's assume we're not going to win the Stanley Cup in our first year. And even if people are new to the sport, we're going to be inclusive, we're going to be welcoming, but we're going to do things. We're going to have Cirque du Soleil shows at the intermission. We're going to be fun on social media and crack a few jokes every now and then. And it's something that really resonated well in a city that, was new to the sport, that when you go back there now, you can't walk 5 feet without seeing a Vegas Golden Knight logo. And even
Absolutely.
Though I'm not there anymore,
you get in the airport, it's everywhere in the airport, and of course the Raiders also were excited about. But take us through the first few weeks. So when you got that job and you kind of had was this under wraps? Was the name talked about? What were your first few responsibilities, which I know were kind of hard to ask other people for help, because, no one had ever done this before. This is the first professional team in Vegas, and a market that I think a lot of the big New York headquartered, whether it was the NFL or the NBA, were kind of nervous about, like, gambling, going through the different issues through the decades. Should we have a team in Vegas? How, is it too much of visitors and not enough residents there? What's the growth rate for, all those suburbs? So take us through what were some of the first responsibilities you had to own in Vegas.
So the first one was don't tell anybody, just because this was before the league had given them the team. So, and it's still, it was looking pretty likely that, that they were getting the team at that point. But still, the last thing you need is tweeting, I got a job with the Las Vegas hockey team, but oh wait, that news isn't out there yet. So the first thing was keeping it under wraps and legitimately like flying out to Vegas in the middle of the night to land there. As that when I got there on a Sunday night, and the league gave them the team on the Wednesday. So it was really right into the fire at the time. I'm also a previous employee of the NHL league office in New York also. And the league was incredibly helpful. It's like, as much as you are a team, you're also a franchise, of a bigger league.
Right.
And it's
a franchise.
Exactly. It's not just doing things the way you want to do it independently. It's working with the league. And I think in the couple days before, as we were starting to work with the league, I think some of my former coworkers' jaws were on the floor when they started seeing, they found out because they saw a Vegas email address on me on some of the emails. And, so that was incredibly exciting. But once we got there, talk about first responsibilities, turning on the accounts for the first time where we didn't have a team name, so it was Vegas is Hockey was the avatar, and and it quickly developed where we got the team name 6 months later. So for the first 6 months, we were just Vegas is Hockey. But when it comes to some of the initial responsibilities, it's you get there's only a handful of employees. Most of the other folks are the ticket sales folks that did the ticket sales drive just to get the team up and going. But a lot of it was working with the league in terms of defining what's the look and feel of our website. How are we going to do that when we don't even have colors yet? How do we start building those things out? When it comes to our brand for social media, what's that going to be? Especially since a lot of the people that are eventually going to have a say in this, they're not even here yet. Those jobs don't even exist yet either. So it's that slow, gradual process of getting to know the people that are around you until the others come and join. And our thing was nailing the big idea and trying to nail a big idea first and foremost. And it was that entertainment aspect that I had mentioned. And then as things evolve, different people get added to the equation or subtracted from the equation, and you start, honing in on messaging and things like that. But it was legitimately land in the desert. I mean, it was so early. Even the team's ultimate office headquarters they hadn't even broken ground on it yet when I got there. But I remember walking out for the groundbreaking out in the middle of a sandy field with a shovel, like a commemorative shovel. And I felt like it was the scene in Casino when Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro are meeting out there in the desert. That's what it kind of felt like, but just really early on. And just to see when a lot of teams in the New York area started, the New York Yankees were around. Not really any of them are around anymore from back then. And not many people, could say that, things that we saw every day, whether it's the first signing of a player or the naming of a team, I got to press the button that put it out there that the team was named, is that there's so many things like that you sometimes have to really sit back for a second and really appreciate how special it is, because there's so many of them that happen that it could easily be dizzying and you can miss some of the milestones sometimes.
Yeah, it's just incredible to think that the first signing, I mean, these things went back for the Yankees. I mean, Doug, imagine having to name the team. I mean, the Golden Knights, I guess you probably partnered with a big marketing company, and there was lots of different back and forth and strategies. Were there any other names that were close that you could disclose that were funny, that were great? Or
it's actually, when it comes to the name, the owner of the team, Bill Foley, who coincidentally I just saw this morning, he closed on a team from the Premier League that he's getting involved over there too, at Bournemouth, which I hope I pronounced that right, is that he's a West Point alumni, and the team names there are the Black Knights. So from the get-go, it was very likely that it was going to be some version of Knights, whether it be Black Knights or Golden Knights or just plain old Knights or something like that. I mean, at one point, I'd even seen something out there, the Desert Knights, which I used to say, man, on the internet, everybody's going to spell desert as dessert, and it's going to be the Dessert Knights, and that's going to be the name of the team, as it's going to be that. But it was always going to probably
have some good cheesecake if you're going to have
I saw them all. I mean, I saw them all. So, and the thing is, it's a lot more complicated when it comes to naming a team now than it was 100 years ago. I believe, just because of trademarks. I mean, I think in the 60s when the Philadelphia Flyers got their name, I think they did a team naming contest, and the prize was somebody got season tickets. Now these are logos that are worth millions, if not billions of dollars. And there's so many more things that get involved with that. So in the old days, you just pluck, hey, the Yankees sounds good, we're going to be the Yankees. But for us, there are a lot more, legal things that had to kind of go through for that name to be adopted. And I personally, and even the Silver Knights was another one that was out there, because Nevada's the Silver State, and they eventually have their minor league team, which they moved into Las Vegas since I left, and that team is the Silver Knights. So it's the Silver Knights is the minor league team, and the Golden Knights is the NHL team. So silver and gold.
Well, the Golden Nuggets, that makes sense, right? That was the famous casino down Fremont Street, right?
Mm-hmm. And they're
just the idea of the gold rush going out to the west, and that's more California, but still winning gold in in Vegas. So I mean, it certainly makes sense. Now, where did they play at the new T-Mobile Arena? Was that where they launched?
Yeah, when you talk about milestones, how's this for one? I remember a Saturday morning in July of 2016. I got up about 4:30 in the morning. I went down to T-Mobile, and it was to see the ice get installed for the first time. And there were like
That's
two
so
people in the
cool.
building. I mean, the incredibly coincidental and funny thing about it is before I moved there, I had only been to Las Vegas once. And coincidentally, it was 2 months before. It was in April of 2016,
Oh,
where
wow.
I was writing for Sports Illustrated, and I actually covered the opening of T-Mobile Arena, which was a concert. It was Wayne Newton opening for the Killers, because the Killers are
Wow.
Vegas born, and obviously Wayne Newton, and that was when the building opened. So I was one of the first people in the building. Never did I imagine that 3 months later I was going to be living in that city, and I was going to be down there to see the ice be installed for the first time. But no, it was perfectly located building. It's
Yeah, I mean, the timing was so fortunate, because you think about it, you guys didn't even, I mean, this is like a 1 year buildup to starting.
Mhm.
Obviously, you can't build an arena like that in 1 year. So there was a lot of arena planning years in advance to bring
For
this
sure.
T-Mobile for concerts. And I don't know if they were going to have, UNLV or other college or whatever, other things they were traveling shows. That was pretty fortuitous, and then just perfect alignment to then get the hockey team at the same time. Now, when you were
Yeah,
out there, did you
for
live
those
on the?
I was just going to say, for those who haven't been there
Oh,
too, the reason I just mentioned perfect location is on one side of the building is the Vegas Strip, so you have all of that element to it, and the other side of the arena is the desert and the highways out to the suburbs, and so
gotcha.
it's that combination. It's like, yeah, there are people that visit and come here, but at the same point, the way you're going to be successful is by building a local fan base, not just by counting on tourism dollars, and
Of
really
course.
making it accessible for them as well.
And what was it like for you living out there? I mean, did you stay on the strip for a few weeks or months, or did you end up getting corporate housing, or end up living in the suburbs? I
So it's so
imagine it could be a fun night having going out to dinners all the time. You probably were a big shot out there.
Yeah, so what's funny is when I first got there, of course, it was so quickly. I mean, I think I got the job offer on June 10th, 2016. I was out there on June 19th, and on June 22nd, they got the team. So certainly
Incredible.
not the time to physically move out there and get set
Right.
up. Is that first night went into a hotel, and I always remember it was so early on, they didn't even have a company credit card yet, so it was like, put it on your
Right.
credit card and we'll expense
Sure.
you, because it
Gotta
was,
do what you
that's
gotta do.
that's how new it was. And then they put a lot of us in temporary housing for the first month or two, and what we ended up doing was, over the course of the summer, every week, like, another employee would go back to wherever home was, and they would move their stuff out. So I think
Sure.
I went back to Jersey in the middle of August, and I drove cross country, and it was a really incredibly fun time. So, but eventually I settled in the suburbs in Summerlin,
Gotcha.
which
Summer,
is
yeah.
which is west of the city. Summerlin is named for Howard Hughes's mother's maiden name, is
Incredible.
because he was a big developer out in that area. Is that
Yeah.
so think of the city of Las Vegas as like a circle with the strip right in the middle. This would be like 9 o'clock on the clock, so straight to the west, about 20 minutes off the strip, but at the same point, it's suburbia. It's a really nice suburb too, and that's where the team eventually built their headquarters. The Raiders, on the other hand, built it in Henderson, which is
Yes, I
which
know
is the
Henderson.
east side of the city. So it's like the east side of the city, east side of the strip is the Raiders, and the west side of the strip is the Vegas Golden Knights. So I always used to say it was the best of both worlds, that people think of Vegas and the strip, but once you get there, you realize the locals don't go to the strip very often. If
course not.
anything, it's like if you're from New York, how many times do you
Right.
really go to the Statue of Liberty? It's not that often. Is that we went out there for the games, and our offices, like I said, were out in the suburbs too. So for me, I always say it was 20 minutes to the strip. So if you wanted to go to a show, very easy, not as much traffic as New York or Boston, other places I've lived
Of
either.
course.
But that being said, I also had a sandy mountain on the other side of my place, because I was all the way at the edge of the valley. So you could either run around with the dogs out in the desert or be on the strip in 20 minutes. It's, like you said, I didn't really understand the community before I got there, because, I saw Vegas Vacation, I saw The Hangover, but the thing that I really learned is there's a massive heart in that city once you get off the strip. I kind of define it as almost like Buffalo with sand, where when it comes to the sports fans, where you have to think of it this way too, is they never had anything of their own before
Nothing.
us. And you have the reputation is the New Yorkers and the Los Angelinians and the Chicagoans, they all come out there and, and they make noise and they kind of, and they're the tourists. But, for the locals, this was something they could call their own. And just to kind of understand that and learn the pride, not only of the city, but of the state itself was, like I said, is an incredibly, like I said, tremendous fan bases. Little did everybody ever know for all these years, when they would talk about Vegas as a market, that it was going to have, that there. But knowing what I know about the market now, it's no surprise that it caught on so quickly.
That's exciting. And the team's been great. They've had a great success. And of course, the Raiders are there now too, which adds to, the interest in kind of coming. I mean, I've been talking to a lot of friends of mine saying, hey, let's do a guys trip when the Giants play the Raiders. I'm not a huge hockey buff, but to go out there for an NFL game, for a weekend, especially the Giants, that to me makes a lot of sense. Or if the Super Bowl were there or playoffs, I mean, I can just imagine that being fantastic.
They might get a baseball team now too. They might get a baseball team now too. That's been thrown out there too. I don't speculate, but it's like we're gonna like to say that we were first, but now yes. Vegas is the hot spot. It's where it's where everything.
Have you heard about the new arena that's coming, the Sphere that MSG is building
out there? I've heard about that. I've seen some of the renderings, but I don't know too much.
So if you haven't had a chance to check this out for the audience, you should go to I don't know what their website is, but MSG, who owns the Garden, the Knicks. They're a big owner of the Tao company. They're also doing an incredible new venue, Dougie, called the Sphere. Wow. It's this tremendous sphere, right? So a big ball, and I think it's on the Strip. And it's kind of this full immersive, think of it like as an IMAX theater at a whole nother level. So the entire thing first of all, the entire outside is all LED projection, right? So you can have video all around a big ball outside. And then when you're on the inside, it's, floor to ceiling screen, and the way the music and the seats are designed and the lighting, it's all immersive for the audience. And supposedly U2 is going to either have a residency there or they're going to open it up. And I know you have some probably obscure U2 trivia you're going to tell me in a minute.
No, I'm just smiling when you talk about some of the features there, because it's one of the real charms to the city is that it's over the top, we never hide from that. And just thinking about how it's going to be, I mean, even for us, T-Mobile Arena had a nightclub in the arena, which I think we were the first.
How cool is that?
Arena like that. And I'm just smiling just because, like I said, just thinking of some of the stunts and some of the advertising that you could do. Like I know the NFL draft had it at the Bellagio fountains. Yeah,
so cool, right?
When we were there, when we finally did get players, the first day we took 4 of them to the roof of Caesar's Palace and we filmed a reenactment of The Hangover legitimately on the roof of Caesar's Palace. And I'm just thinking of some of the stuff where it's like sometimes you can't take it too seriously. You just need to smile and
have fun with it, right?
Hear you describe it. I'm just smiling because
I think the nightclub probably, I have to give credit to Dr. Jerry Buss, because I think probably the nightclub comes from the Forum Club at the Laker games. That was really, I believe, his kind of push, saying, look, this is LA, it's Hollywood, we're going to make this about celebrities, fun, probably some drugs and smoking and who knows what else going on during those ages. But Vegas certainly was the first to have the real nightclub in there. So the transition for you for the next opportunity is kind of interesting, because you think about Vegas, and when you think about Vegas, you think about, if you live in New York or New Jersey, do you still want to go to Vegas? Because you have sports betting now really everywhere we go, right? I mean, I'm doing it on the weekends. You're doing it. We're always talking, $5 here, $10 here, $100 there. Who knows? That Minnesota Viking game, I put $5 on them to come back and win. I won $40.
Nice.
And then I bet I think I bet them plus 16. And of course that bet won because they came back. They were down 33-0 and had the biggest comeback in NFL history. So you actually did work and did obviously social media, digital media again for DraftKings, right? Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, I've used the joke several times, but I always say I'm the only person that had to leave Las Vegas to get involved in sports betting, where I moved to Boston, where DraftKings is based. That outside of our office, when I got there, was the Boston Tea Party Museum, which is as opposite as the Las Vegas atmosphere as you could possibly get. But no, it was another thing, like you mentioned, entrepreneurial type of background, is that DraftKings wasn't a new company when I got there. I got there in 2018 and the company launched in 2012. But that being said, I got there, or my position was created because sports betting was legalized, and that this was not just going to be daily fantasy anymore, that this is going to be now eventually what we see, not only sports betting, but also casino games, and now really venturing strong into the media business. So it was another startup, so to speak, where it was, moving out to Boston to launch DraftKings social media efforts when sports betting was legalized. We were the first legal mobile sports book in the United States to launch a social media presence. So, that was another one that was incredibly exciting, but another business that's a little different, where it's a little bit less storytelling and selling players and experiences. And it's a little bit more B2B business and a little bit more being measured on transactions, is so a little different. And I think for me, a really good opportunity just to expand my knowledge base. But no, I did it the opposite way. You would think that somebody would work for a hockey team in Boston and a sports betting in Las Vegas. I did it the other way around. I did the hockey team in Las Vegas and the sports betting in Las Vegas.
It's funny. Like, I remember all my friends doing fantasy baseball and fantasy football and basketball, and I got into it maybe a little bit later. And I barely remember, Doug, the DraftKings, FanDuels of the world being daily fantasy sports. I mean, I know that was huge. I know that was where they really blew up. But now, to me, sports betting is just such a much bigger industry and opportunity. And you're starting to see all the teams and the leagues embrace it and say, hey, I want a piece of this. If they're doing it, I want a piece. You go to MetLife. I think DraftKings, has a huge, big suite at MetLife. All the different teams. They all have tickets or suites or whatever.
Mhm.
And, they'll reach out to you. They can entertain you if you're a big bettor. And just the dollars are getting so big. I mean, were you surprised by this, that it jumped from the fantasy to the actual betting part?
Oh yeah, I mean, it definitely happened super quick. Like, it used to be like, oh, we can't bet, you're gonna get in trouble. Now it's like everybody's doing it everywhere, really fast.
I mean, look, if you can bet and make real money, I feel like why would I enter a daily fantasy thing where I can be one of a million people winning $1,000 when I can just go make the bet and win $100 myself? So I don't know, Dan, tell me, has the daily fantasy part kind of taken a little bit of a back seat since the real sports betting is now so?
I don't know. I would not call it backseat. I would just say it's just different arms of the business now. Is how I would more look at it. It's more a diversified type of portfolio. I think you still have your people that with the types of contests that daily fantasy offers, just the nature of points and things like that is a little different than traditional betting. And you definitely have your diehards that really enjoy that too. And I think that's an incredibly robust business. I think it's more a thing when it comes to sports books. I think the reason we see more of that is we're still so early in the game for this industry. We're still legal in, 20, 25 states, whatever it is right now. And I kind of describe it, it's almost like Monopoly, where when you play a game of Monopoly at the beginning of the game, everybody's trying to land on places and get properties and build hotels. But eventually, as the game goes by, it starts to consolidate down to a few winners, and those, who don't stay in business any longer. Is, I think right now where we're at is not just only with a DraftKings and a FanDuel. I think sports books in general, sports betting in general, you're at that early monopoly stage and everyone's trying to get their market share and trying to get in there. So that's why I think you see advertising, when you watch a football game or a baseball game, you see it often during the commercials.
Oh my God, millions they spent.
Often during the commercials. And, and that's why, and I think that's why, is just because, it is early in the game. There is a lot of money involved here. This is something that is new. So you have all these brands trying to establish themselves that they will They will be the winners. They will be the winners, and they will be the ones that survive. And, I would not even be surprised personally if it ends up being similar to the .com boom of the late 90s, where you start seeing some of the big books starting to swallow up some of the
consolidation.
I could see that.
I mean,
sure.
there was a proposed merger a few years ago with FanDuel and DraftKings, and I think the SEC or somebody blocked it. And I actually have a friend at FanDuel, so that'd be a great interview to bring on to talk about that.
Even to take it another step further, is even in addition to the sports books getting involved, you could also see mainstream companies, whether they be Yahoos or Googles or Amazons, you could see them getting involved too. So maybe as opposed, just throwing things out there that are anything is possible, which makes it exciting, is that in addition to big sports books maybe buying smaller sports books, you could have these big global brands buying the big sports books too. And maybe we see an Amazon sports book down the road where you could bet in your Amazon Prime account or if your TV
I would not be surprised by it one bit. I mean, there's a lot
I would not be surprised. So that's why, and I think that's one of the things we're going to see here is I think when you look at it on a daily basis, it seems like there's not a lot of movement, but then you look back and say, what's happened over the last 5 years? And you go, holy smokes, that's a lot of movement.
Only a couple of years, right?
Exactly. And I think over the next 5 years, you're going to see even more as this business kind of matures and evolves. And gets into more markets and just becomes a little bit more mainstream. And you even mentioned the presence in the venues. Is that one of the things that's now becoming very popular is to build a sports book right in the stadiums, where in the past, if you're a Yankee Stadium, you're a seasonal venue for the most part. Now you could get foot traffic 365 days a year. That's incredibly valuable. And you're going to see, more of those open too, that it's about, not just the betting and, it's the experience. I mean,
it's about being together,
Exactly.
I mean, I saw FanDuel built the sports book at the racetrack at the Meadowlands in New Jersey. And if you listen to their advertisements for football season, they'll say, come over, park here, take a shuttle to the Jet game, take a shuttle to the Giant game, whatever. The concept is maybe that's the new tailgate, getting together indoors, making your bets, or go after the game to avoid the traffic and bet on the 4:00 game or the night game.
It's the Vegas City model. The Vegas City model is that it's about the experience. It's not about the sports betting. Is that we've mentioned how it's legal everywhere now, and that you would say intuitively, you might say, man, will that hurt tourism in Las Vegas? But it doesn't. It doesn't, because Las Vegas, just going there, I mean, all the way from the what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It's not just it's just not a place. It's a mindset. It's an experience, and it's the entertainment of it. And
but they've also done a great job reinventing themselves. They're always refreshing the hotels,
constantly.
the restaurant. The chefs are coming out. You're getting the best chefs. You're getting the best shows. No matter who you enjoy from a listening perspective, there's music for everyone. The quality is great. So I think they had to do it, because obviously if a big part of the betting now can be on your iPhone, you've got to give me a reason to go. So I will say I feel a little bit of a less reason, but every time I go, and I used to go every year for a big real estate conference, and I went 3 years ago for my 40th, had a great time. It's always special, whether it's a special venue for eating or a special show that you can't see anywhere else. But like in anything, when you're together with your friends and you make it feel like it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, it's about who you're with, it's about doing it responsible, and enjoying yourself. And life is short. I think we've all learned that over the past few years. Life is short. So let's transition. After you left DraftKings, you ended up with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, right? That's where you are now.
Yeah. So I'm at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and going on my 9th month here, where this is the first company that I've worked for that existed before I was born. Just because DraftKings was 2012 and the Vegas Golden Knights were 2016, is that I'm 1987. So, I'm a little bit before both of them. And my industry too, social media wasn't a thing, either when I was born. So the Pro Football Hall of Fame is entering its 60th year. So it's not a new company. But that being said, we're just doing a lot of new things and trying to be more than just a museum that people come and visit. We're trying to be a destination. I mean, right? We have a sister company, brother company that's right next to us called the Hall of Fame Village, and they're building water parks and restaurants and things like that to turn this into a place, that you could, a luxury hotel that you could go on a full family vacation to. Football Hall of Fame is here. There's other things here too. So just watching some of those things, I think right outside right now, I think there's like a tubing slope that goes through the goalposts at our stadium. So you like kick a field goal with your body kind of going through. So it's just a lot of things. Cool. So as I got here now, it's as a lot of things are growing. So it's like an older company, but it's moving into the next phase. So I
think it's great. I feel like a few years ago they started, and tell me if I'm wrong, maybe I noticed it more, kind of the whole kickoff, like the Hall of Fame football game before the actual induction of the Hall of Fame. I feel like that became more of an event, more of something I wanted to be tuned into. True, false, or am I?
I would say it's been around. I mean, it's been around since the beginning. I mean, they've been having the games since the 60s. I think more it's a thing that as the sport of football is become more and more popular, it's now the landmark event. This is the first preseason game that there is. This is football is back.
Yes, that's what it is. That's what it was.
That's what I think. I think probably what you're referencing.
Yeah. So ramped up. Yeah.
So it's not just the Hall of Fame game; it's the celebration that football is back, and the reason, by the way, that the Hall of Fame is in Canton, Ohio, and the reason that football does start here is this is where the NFL started. Is that in 1920 the NFL was founded in Canton, Ohio. And there was a team in the 20s called the Canton Bulldogs that Jim Thorpe was on, and they were one of the Titan teams of the 1920s. So that's the reason that the Pro Football Hall of Fame was put in Canton, Ohio, back in 1963. But it's also very symbolically why it's the perfect place for this is where football season should start, because this is where the league started, going all the way back.
And how now you have a whole stadium there? Do you know how many people it holds at the stadium?
Oh, they're going to kill me for not knowing the exact number, but it's probably about 20,000.
Okay, so I was going to say, could this ever be a full-time regular season game? I mean, the NFL is growing. They played a game in Munich, Germany. They've played in Mexico City. the Giants beat the Packers this year in London. And to me,
Never say never.
Never say never. A full season game in Canton, and maybe they can add on to the stadium.
In addition to NFL, we also had the USFL. The new USFL had their playoffs and championship game at our stadium too this past summer too. So they're the Ohio State football championships, high school state football championships were here a couple weeks ago as well. So there are other games. It's not just a stadium that, is used one game a year and then it sits empty. Is that, there are to that point, can it host another game? Well, it hosts USFL championship games, so
sure, why not?
The potential, like I said, is incredible, and it's sky's the limit.
And how closely does the Pro Football Hall of Fame work with the NFL? Because obviously it's not just the NFL. There's a lot more to it. Are they an incredible partner for you guys to work with day to day?
Yeah, incredible partner. Is that you're right. We are not the NFL Hall of Fame. We're the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And that means we're not necessarily under the same corporate umbrella as them. But that being said, we have 362 Hall of Famers, and they were all involved in the NFL. They were all in the NFL. So you do work incredibly closely. I mean, even as I'm just looking over my shoulder, got the notification for when we finish up is that we got some new stuff from one of the clubs that's going to go on display from something that happened during a game in the last couple of weeks. So we work incredibly closely with the clubs on things like that. So work incredibly closely with them, and just their media might, and just like I said, the status of the most popular sport in the United States is that their support makes all this possible.
Absolutely. So something like let's say the Vikings coming back, the greatest turnaround in NFL history, there could be potentially a ball or a jersey or something from the touchdown. And then the Vikings say, look, let's donate it to the Hall of Fame. You then, you're going to put together the presentation and then maybe it gets written up on social media, blast it out, let everyone know what's going on.
That's exactly right. We got something from the Vikings coincidentally a few weeks ago from one of Justin Jefferson's highlight reel catches. You might even know the catch I'm talking about. We got his gloves and we got his arm sleeves. We collaborated with the Vikings on it, and it was actually the most engaged post in the history of the Hall of Fame's Instagram, believe it or not. And
we did not even talk about this. I just mentioned that.
Is that right into the subject? And I'm trying to think some other things. We got Justin Fields shoes in the last couple of weeks because he's been
running like crazy. Yeah,
such a milestone season. He just became only the third quarterback, I think, to rush for 1,000 yards in a season. So we had shoes from Justin Fields. We get a lot of those things on a on a somewhat regular basis. But that's the thing too. We're not just celebrating the 362 Hall of Famers. We're celebrating the sport of football as a whole. I'm even looking at just on the other side of my laptop there. We have the draft card for Pat Tillman, who not a Hall of Famer, but obviously great man who sacrificed so much, is that we're part of telling that story too. So it's not just telling the story of the Hall of Famers, it's telling the story of football as well. And, and that's the current stuff too, because, you never know, these guys that are making these highlight reel catches this year, in 10 years might be getting a bus down the hall for me here.
I'm sure there'll be something there from Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. I mean, some of the plays that those guys are making now are just incredible, and how they move their body. And no one ever taught a quarterback to throw the ball across your body, across the whole field. He
made it look too easy too. He didn't just do it. He made it look too easy.
This one was like a joke. That was backyard.
That should not be that easy, but he did it.
Yeah, so that's awesome. I'm excited. So typically at the end of the show, we will do some type of lightning round that we'll go through with our guests. But for today, I wanted to do something special. I know you are a big trivia buff. You're a big movie buff. You seem to know every fact about every movie, and also every fact about every NHL championship, every baseball championship. So I know this is probably the first time that you've seen the show, but here at Get Up With Garret, we're part of a family of shows. And one of our shows is called Mind Your Pucking Business with Jeff Krentzman. And we'd like to bring in our friend Jeff Krentzman, if he's in the green room. There he is. Good morning, Jeffrey.
All right.
And I thought I would bring Jeffrey in because he is the host with Doug of Mind Your Pucking Business. He knows lots of hockey knowledge. And I thought maybe there'd be an opportunity to try to stump the guest today. Instead of doing the lightning round, Dougie, I want to do stump the guest.
All right, okay. I like it.
People I know are never going to live this down if I don't get these all right. So
he's going to have to get these all right. So I've asked Jeff to put together a couple questions. Maybe don't give him the hardest one first, Jeff. Maybe warm him up with something to get him going. All right.
First, real quick, Jeff, do me a favor. Can you turn sideways? Can you turn the phone so we don't get those black bars?
Yup.
Yeah. There you go.
There, hold on.
Oh,
We're getting there.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. not. It doesn't readjust there.
All right. Well,
He must be on that
I don't
thing,
know.
you know. Yeah. Okay. Well, you know, the man has his own show. What does he know? What does he know?
I'm used to being there. By the way, there's fascinating stuff with the Vegas Golden Knights. I listened to that whole thing. I'm not a Twitter guy, but I know about the success that you guys had with the Twitter account there in the beginning, because it would get reposted everywhere. And to know that
it was incredibly exciting. I mean, I remember one of the nights I got home, or actually, I was on the couch. It was a Sunday before we played a game, and I put a tweet out. And 15 minutes later, it was in front of me on the NHL Network. My tweet was like put up there, and later that night, Steve Levy put it as his like play of the night on SportsCenter. So things like that, you know, or you kind of have to pinch yourself sometimes. But yeah, it was incredibly exciting.
Yeah, you guys. I mean, the whole thing. Like, I remember the Stanley Cup of the year. You were there. I want to say it was either Game 2 or Game 5. You guys had Imagine Dragons on the ice pregame. I mean, it was just a totally different experience in Vegas with hockey. You guys crushed it. So it was cool to listen to that. Thank you, Garrett, for having them on. That was awesome.
Absolutely. Of course. I always try to diversify away from basketball, football, a little bit of hockey. Absolutely.
There you go.
All right, Jeff, what do you got for Dan? Let's start with question 1. Let's warm him up.
We're gonna. I'm not trying. I don't want to go too hard, but we'll gradually work our way up. So in 1994, my show, Mind Your Fucking Business, we definitely focused in on the Rangers more than any other NHL team. I'm a season ticket holder. So the Rangers won the Stanley Cup in 1994, ending the 54-year curse. Who did they play?
In 1994, they beat the Canucks in 7 games.
That is true.
Coincidentally, to add the second part of it, the final face-off in Game 7 was Messier against Murray Craven. Murray Craven was actually with us with the Vegas Golden Knights. He was the neighbor of Bill Foley, the owner of the team, and it was Murray who was tasked with initially staffing us. So really strong connection to the 1994 Stanley Cup there.
Jeff, You're going to have to turn it up, Jeff. That was not a warm-up question. Right. That was a layup.
We'll go a little bit harder, but I'm going to stick to the 1994 Stanley Cup series. So there was a famous play in Game 4 of that series in Vancouver where there was a penalty.
Bure penalty shot.
There you go. Pavel Bure was the one with the penalty shot. Okay.
Mike Richter with the split save.
That is true. Yeah.
Jeff, remember I said to you, Jeff, I went to a Ranger game and I met that player who they beat the Devils and they kept yelling his name to win the game. That goal he scored.
Mato.
There you go. See,
who hopefully,
growing up, I was a Devils fan, and I was actually at games 3 and 6. Game 6 was the Messier guarantee when he had a hat trick. So, as a fan of the other team, that one burned a little bit.
Yes, and as a little tease, we're trying to get Stefan Matteau on Mind Your Fucking Business in January. It's kind of been something I've been working.
Exciting.
All right, so we'll go away from the Rangers. So in the Stanley Cup, you want to talk about the Devils. I'm going to make this easy. I didn't know you were a Devils fan, so the next question is really easy. The Devils lost in 2001 in the Stanley Cup Finals. It's a 2-part question. They lost in 7 games. Who did they lose to? And what player did Joe Sakic immediately hand the Stanley Cup to? Although I just gave you
Colorado Avalanche, Ray Bourque.
There you go. Very true.
I was at games 3, 4, and 6 in that one at the Meadowlands.
I mean, he's good, Garrett. He knows his stuff.
Jeff,
go
we don't
old,
mess around here.
On me.
Jeff, you have to go old. I even went to one of those games. Oh, no, I went a few years ago when they lost to the LA Kings. I went to one of those games in Newark. I forget what year that was. And Dan, I recently went to Martin Brodor's charity golf event where we were playing golf. And thanks to our friend David Lenter, who has been on the show. And we were playing with a former Devil, really great guy, big guy. Forgot his name already, but anyway, well, I'll let you know who it was. But all right, go ahead. Let's bring it back. You got to go older. You got to go more historical. He's a very historical.
As a Ranger fan, it was thankfully in the early 80s, I was very young and I didn't realize that the Islanders won 4 Stanley Cups in a row. What team in 1984 ended that run?
Edmonton Oilers in 5 games.
Okay.
May 17th, 1984.
Wow. Now, I do know, as a date trivia question, that the Islanders, when they won their first Stanley Cup in 1980, was on my wife's day that she was actually born.
May 24th.
Was it the 24th? I always thought it was
24th. Saturday, May 24th, 1980. 7-11 of overtime.
I mean,
Jeff, he's got to come on. He's got to come on your show. I charge extra for that.
I'm going to add. I like to add historical references of what else was
Yes.
going on in the world at the time. So Mount St. Helens erupted the same week.
Wow.
That's
the tie-in.
All right. So,
Jeff, do you have anything that goes back further? Maybe the Canadians from the 70s or the 60s or something, old school.
Yeah, sure. In the Canadians won 5 Stanley Cups in a row in the 50s. In every Stanley Cup that they won, they had the same MVP that won the MVP trophy. Who was it?
They didn't have an MVP trophy then in the finals. Didn't start until 1965.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let's do coach.
Wow, that's incredible.
The coach was Hector Toe Blake.
Hector Blake.
Former great player for them in the 40s. He was on the punch line where it was Elmer Locke was the center with Toe Blake and Rocket Richard as his wingers.
And Toe Blake won it a couple, and I believe in the 60s, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure you will know. I think he won it also in the 60s, not just consecutively.
Yeah, he won it in, let's see, the Canadians won the cup in 46, 53, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 65, 66, 68, 69, 71, 73, 76, 77, 78, 79, 86, 93. He was not all those, but he was not all those, but those were the years.
Of course not.
No. He the NHL would be named after him if it was.
I wanted to make sure I didn't miss all of them. Like I think I got them all in a row there.
All right,
Jeff.
Yes.
You have one more good one, and then maybe a baseball question, because he also claims he can name any baseball team's championships.
I could do the Yankees in 10 seconds. I'm not even a Yankee fan. I could do that.
All right, let's hear the Yankees.
I can go Yankees because my wife and I used to have season tickets, or a ticket plan. I should say season tickets. 81 games would be too much. All right, so 2001, famous moment, Dallas Stars win the Stanley Cup on a quote-unquote controversial goal with a skate in the crease. Who was the skate in the crease?
It was 1999. It was Brett Hull, and it actually is a really good connection to one of my favorite tweets with the Vegas Golden Knights, where we were going a little back and forth with the Dallas Stars or something like that. And I think the Dallas Stars account had tweeted us like, "These dad jokes got to stop," or something like that. And we tweeted the Dallas Stars saying that Brett Hull's foot wasn't in the crease, needs to stop, or something like that. It was something like that. And it was a fun, it was a totally harmless, fun little back and forth. But no, I think I was up way past my bedtime that night in 1999. But they changed the rule after that too. They changed how the in the foot crease rule worked, just because of how controversial that ending was.
All right, I'll give you one hard. I'm going to give you my hardest one last before we go to bed. There's only been 2 Stanley Cup coaches that have ever won the Stanley Cup while they, at the time that they won the cup, were interim head coaches.
Let's see.
You can get this.
I can get this. Let's see. I got one. I just want to make sure I got the 2. Okay, so Craig Berube with the St. Louis Blues in 2019, and Dan Bilesma with the Penguins in 2009.
No, we got
over to Dan Bilesma with the Penguins in 2016.
No, it was actually
it was Mike Sullivan with the Penguins in 2016.
No, you should know. No,
you got it wrong. We stumped him.
Harry Robinson with the Devils in 2000.
See, this is the part that I remember. I remember the midseason changes, but I forget who had the official interim title and who had been named the permanent coach. But being a Devil fan, Lou Lamoriello makes changes all the time, so it's hard to keep up with. But I am beyond impressed. Like Eric told me, you were good.
Incredible.
You want to do a baseball one?
Let's do a baseball one.
I could do the Yankee party trick. I call this my party trick.
Right,
let's do the Yankee party trick.
So for the audience, I'm gonna close my eyes so you know that I just don't have like a screen on the other side that I'm reading them off on. So I'll let you guys count down from like 3, 2, 1, and you can count it in 10 seconds. I'll name every year the Yankees won the World Series.
All right, hold on. Let me get my stop. Let me get my iPhone going here. Hold on. We're going to set a timer for 10 seconds.
People accuse me of cheating when I have my eyes open, so that's why they're going to be closed.
Are you ready, Dan? 3, 2, 1, go.
1923, 1927, 1928, 1932, 36, 37, 38, 39, 41, 43, 47, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 56, 58, 61, 62, 77, 78, 96, 98, 99, 2000, 2009.
That was pretty great.
Impressive.
That was pretty great. We have to check those later.
I was going to say that part. I could have just said 27 years in a row. And
I know. We probably would have said that. So, all right. I did an internship when I was at UMass. I spent a semester living in Bradenton, Florida, with the Pittsburgh Pirates. So tell me, what were the Pittsburgh Pirates championships?
Let's see. They did not win in 1903. They lost the first World Series. So they won in 1909. They won in 1925, 1960, 1971, and 1979.
Wow.
This is
Bill
incredible.
Mazeroski.
Now, can I ask you a question just because it's going to be on my mind? Now, when you go to like food shop, can you remember a grocery list like this, or is this just?
Oh heck no! Honestly, sometimes I forget to put on like a matching pair of socks.
You know,
All the hard drive was wasted. Was not wasted, but all the hard drive was on this. I can't say wasted because it's allowed me to have a career. It's allowed me to have a career, but all of it was spent on one thing. Sometimes
I was gonna throw like a Yankee question at you, but I was gonna say who was the MVP of the 2009 World Series, but that's child.
Oh, A-Rod. Come on, I know that one.
Oh,
it was Hideki Matsui.
Matsui, yeah.
Oh, Matsui.
Yeah,
I just remember that big A-Rod home run against.
I'm a Mets fan too.
You're a Mets fan.
I am.
So you're excited about Steve Cohen.
Oh, people woke me up. My phone went off like crazy at like 3 o'clock
night, right?
And I was like, at first I'm concerned. When the phone goes off at 3 o'clock in the morning, usually it can't be anything good. And then I'm like, Carlos Correa is a Met. I'm like, how do I go back to sleep after that one? And how do I go back to sleep after that one? But like I said, no, I'm just a sports guy in general. That even if I'm not a Yankee fan, they have so much history that I've always loved learning about it. And I love learning about it.
Cool. All right. Well, Jeff, we're going to say goodbye to you. Thanks so much for coming on, and hope everyone also gets a chance to check out Jeff's great show, Mind Your Pucking Business. He goes live here. What does he go live every week?
Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
Check it out.
Check it out. He's on YouTube.
If you could leave, Garrett, if I could ask a favor, if you could leave some of those for me in the studio that you put up before, the picture of the latkes, I would appreciate that. Those look good.
I know. Sorry, my wife didn't save a latke for you, Jeff. I think I had 5. I think there may be 2 left over for her parents, but hey, sorry.
Thank you for having me, guys. Be well. Happy holidays.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jeff. He's great. He has a great show and knows a lot of business and hockey too. And I think to wrap up, Dan, I think one of the most important things that I've learned, I've really learned 2 important things for you that I want to summarize for the audience. One is that you always took kind of this entrepreneurial approach. Every position you were in, you could argue was somewhat of a startup, something new. And, you didn't kind of say, oh my God, how do I jump into this position with someone carrying me the whole way, training me the whole way, educating me, babying me. You kind of got in there with your feet wet and you learned on the job. You weren't afraid to go for it. I'm sure you made tons of mistakes. And like I always say, like being, part of trial and error, failure is such an important role in terms of getting to a success. So I think that's super important. But I also think you've identified yourself as a storyteller. And I think in any type of marketing job in social media, digital marketing, you've got to tell a story and you got to connect the emotions of it. And every one of these companies needs to tell a story. And so I think, the role that you've filled at these big organizations is so critical to connecting the brand to the emotion. And it happens with storytelling. So I think that's fantastic as well for you.
And I think one of the things that you touched on there too is how everything is new and it's diving in. I think you have to have a certain mindset if you want to be involved in something like that, as opposed to going into a more established company where there's been some precedent that's been set. I think the mentality needs to be is that it might look like a greater risk, but it's certainly a greater reward also. I think the way I look at it is you can't be afraid of it. Because if you're afraid of it, it's going to eat you up and you're going to be nervous. And it's the ability to be flexible where it's things are going to change quickly. Forget going by the script. The script doesn't even exist yet in many cases. So I think, you need to have a little bit of that adventurer mindset that, you're not the one who wants to stay in the house. You're the one who wants to go on the hike, on the trail that nobody else has ever gone on before. And I think that when people are able to embrace that and look at that as exciting, as opposed to something to be concerned about, I think it allows them to not only thrive in those environments, but also feel comfortable in those environments, because otherwise, you get some stressful nights in there too. And sometimes the stress can really eat you up if you're not embracing the entire experience.
I think that's a great message for the audience, Dan, because you've taken this kind of entrepreneurial pathway and approach and mindset as this adventurer, this wanderer. You're figuring this all out, but yet you don't own the company, right? So it's okay. You can still be an entrepreneur in someone else's company, right? And you can still act that way and not be afraid to fail and feel like you can still develop things and have a voice and have a vision. So I think it's a really super thankful that we're able to connect through MKA and have you come on the show and share that career path and that feedback. And if anybody wants to get in touch with you, Dan, I know you're on LinkedIn. You're welcome to pitch any, if you have an Instagram or Twitter, just let us know. We can put it up in the notes.
The good thing about my name is that I'm the only one with it. The bad news is sometimes people have trouble spelling it but if you just pop up the spelling of my name at Dan Marrazza, I'm the same on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. You can hit me on any of those. I have a lot of strange pieces of trivia, not only with sports, but I'm also a Revolutionary War buff. That's another one of my hobbies. you'll see a lot of random Boston Tea Party references and things like that too. You'll see dad jokes, you'll see trivia, you'll see a bunch of nonsense. And my
Good
other
stuff.
hobby, I go where movies were filmed. I've probably done about 200 of those, and you'll see a lot of those locations too. So
Incredible.
hopefully,
I love it.
hopefully, I don't disappoint if you follow me, and hopefully there's at least a couple things there that you find entertaining.
So definitely follow Dan on Instagram, on Twitter at Dan Marrazza. Give us a thumbs up if you love this show. Email. We have an email address here too, right?
Absolutely.
getupwithgarret@gmail.com. If you have any questions for Dan or for Dougie or for myself about sports business and getting involved in this industry, feel free to reach out and we'll definitely connect you guys. And hope everyone has a safe rest of the holiday season and a happy new year. And we'll see you in 2023, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Let's go.
Thanks for
Play
having
me
me
out
on,
of here. Let me hear my exit music.